When investigators located Tim Bosma's truck, they knew they had found a major piece of the puzzle, but they still didn't know where Tim was. What began as a missing person investigation was rapidly becoming something much darker. The last people known to have seen Tim alive were Dellen Millard and Mark Smish. As detectives examined phone records, surveillance footage, witness statements, and digital evidence, their attention increasingly focused on the two men. One discovery immediately stood out. The communication used to arrange the truck meeting came through a burner phone. To investigators, that suggested planning. Not spontaneity, not coincidence, planning. As search warrants were executed at properties connected to Dellen Millard, investigators uncovered evidence that would transform the case: an industrial animal incinerator. According to prosecutors, the evidence collected from the property suggested that extraordinary efforts had been made to destroy evidence connected to Tim Bosma's murder. The allegations shocked the public. Families cling to hope in missing person cases. They hope their loved one will come home. But as investigators continued revealing evidence, hope began giving way to a far darker reality. The Bosma investigation soon attracted national attention. News outlets covered every development. The public followed every court filing and every press conference. Then investigators discovered something unexpected. Another missing persons case appeared connected to the same circle of people: a young woman named Laura Babcock. Laura had disappeared the year before. For years, her family searched for answers. There was no body, no clear crime scene, and no explanation, only silence. As detectives reviewed Laura's disappearance, they found connections that were impossible to ignore. Witnesses were re-interviewed, communications were reviewed, timelines were reconstructed. According to prosecutors, Laura's relationship with Dellen Millard had become complicated and problematic. They argued that Laura did not voluntarily disappear. They argued she was murdered. The challenge was enormous. Cases without bodies are among the most difficult homicide prosecutions in the criminal justice system. The defense would later argue that prosecutors were relying heavily on circumstantial evidence, but investigators believed the evidence told a clear story. As authorities continued building the case, another shocking possibility emerged. Detectives began re-examining the death of Wayne Millard, Dellen's father, the founder of the Millard family aviation empire. Wayne had died from a gunshot wound in what was originally ruled a suicide. The case appeared closed, finished, resolved. But investigators were beginning to question that conclusion. As detectives revisited old reports, witness statements, and forensic evidence, they developed concerns about the original ruling. They began asking a question that seemed almost unbelievable. What if Wayne Millard had not taken his own life? What if he had been murdered? The possibility stunned the public. By now, Dellen Millard was no longer simply connected to the disappearance of Tim Bosma. Investigators were examining three separate deaths: Tim Bosma, Laura Babcock, and Wayne Millard. The wealthy aviation heir who once appeared destined to inherit a successful business empire was becoming the central figure in one of Canada's most notorious criminal investigations. As the investigations concluded, the cases moved into the courtroom. The first major trial focused on Tim Bosma. Prosecutors presented evidence detailing the online truck advertisement, the burner phone, the test drive, the disappearance, and the evidence collected during the investigation. According to the prosecution, Tim Bosma had been deliberately targeted. The defense challenged the government's theory and attacked the credibility of witnesses and evidence. But after hearing the case, the jury returned a verdict. Dellen Millard and Mark Smick were found guilty of first-degree murder. For Tim Bosma's family, the verdict provided accountability, but it could never replace what they had lost: a husband, a father, a loved one who never came home. The next major courtroom battle involved Laura Babcock. Again, prosecutors faced a significant challenge. There was no body, no remains, no grave, yet they argued that the evidence clearly showed Laura had been murdered. The defense challenged those conclusions, emphasizing the absence of physical remains, but prosecutors maintained that the totality of the evidence told a compelling story. Ultimately, the jury agreed. Another conviction followed. For Laura's family, the verdict represented justice, but not closure. To this day, Laura's remains have never been recovered. Then came the final trial, the case involving Wayne Millard, the father whose death had once been ruled a suicide. Prosecutors argued that Wayne had been murdered and that his death had been staged. The defense fought aggressively against the allegations. The trial attracted enormous public attention because of both the family relationship and the prominence of the Millard name. After hearing the evidence, the court reached its conclusion. Dellen Millard was convicted in connection with the death of his father. 3 victims and 3 murder cases and 3 convictions. The outcome marked one of the most dramatic falls from privilege in modern Canadian criminal history. Dellen Millard had grown up surrounded by wealth, opportunity, and influence. He appeared positioned to inherit a successful aviation empire and continue the family legacy. Instead, prosecutors convinced juries that he was responsible for 3 murders. The fallout extended far beyond the courtroom. The Millard family name became permanently associated with one of Canada's most infamous criminal cases. Families mourned, communities struggled to understand what had happened, and questions remained. What motivated the crimes? Was it greed, control, thrill-seeking, some combination of all 3? Observers continue debating those questions today. What is certain is the impact. Tim Bosma never returned home to his family. Laura Babcock's loved ones continue living without answers about where her remains are located. And Wayne Millard's death became part of a criminal case that shocked the nation. The story of Dellen Millard remains compelling because it defies expectations. This was not someone who appeared trapped by circumstance. This was someone who appeared to have every advantage life could offer: money, status, opportunity, a future. Yet despite those advantages, his name became linked to one of Canada's most notorious murder cases. Today, Dellen Millard remains a symbol of how quickly privilege, power, and opportunity can be destroyed. Not by bad luck, not by circumstance, but by choices. And years after the investigations ended, one question still lingers. How does someone who appears to have everything end up losing it all? For the families left behind, the answer may never matter as much as the consequences, because those consequences will last forever. This has been Gravel and Gavel, and this was the fall of Dellen Millard.